All right, Brian, I'm going to admit something to you that may or may not make the cut. I just placed a bid on Andre Miller's rookie card box set, or rather a box of the Topps Chrome for that. I'm not going to tell you how much, but I did win them right at the start of the show. So I am excited about that. And I think actually that will probably put an end beyond the Victor Wembanyama cards that myself, um, Andrew Sutton, and yourself will hopefully break on the show. I think you will probably just do it more as a, you said you weren't interested in the pack breaking, but you were just saying as, a observer would probably be down for that. So
I'm here
anyway,
for moral support. That's right.
moral support, us crying when we don't get, refactor one of one autographed cards or whatever. But yeah, Brian Foster, can you tell it is the off season? Welcome back to another episode of the Boxscore Geek Show. I'm Dre Alvarez, proud new owner of a Topps Chrome 1999-2000 box where I hope to find an Andre Miller rookie card, which is not the valuable card in that set. Do you want to know the valuable card, Brian?
1991
or 1990-2000? Sorry.
Oh, interesting. No, tell me.
Now here's the interesting fact and really appropriate. The important player in that trade is, or in that set, the most valuable one. The one I want is Andre Miller. The most valuable card in that set is an Allen Iverson refactor.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so the irony, those two traded for each other. But yeah, I mean, I've just been into pack breaking as we've kind of discussed. You've even watched me do some. I actually need to cut up the show where you were talking to me on a Sunday where I was doing that for fun, and hope to, maybe do some more on the show. And for me, it's Denver Nuggets, right? I'm going for like rookie years of some players I want. Like I just said, like Andre Miller. I grabbed the David Robinson rookie year. And, Brian, I was like, what a cool rookie card to get, a really cool rookie card. I would love to just break open, like organically, not buy, because I find that kind of cheating. You can do it. And a lot of the players I like aren't expensive. But I said it would really be nice to grab a Marcus Camby rookie card. That is cost prohibitive. Do you know why?
Is that the year the Knicks went to the finals, or was that the year after?
Not quite. Marcus Camby's rookie season, this other player, this no-name guy by the name of Kobe Bryant came in the league.
So
if you're
all the
looking
boxes get expensive.
Yeah, if you're looking for a box with a Marcus Camby rookie card that I think I can buy, that's the Toronto Raptors rookie, by the way, where he wasn't even good. He was drafted number 2 in the draft, went to the Toronto Raptors. But if you're looking for a box to break a Marcus Camby, it is unaffordable because there might also be a Kobe rookie. Well, let's get on to the show. As I said, you can tell it's the off season because we're talking card breaking at the intro. And the good news is the offseason has slowed a little with one major hurdle we have to talk. And we realized, I think you already knew this from the get, Brian, you just knew the production value that it was going to take, but we are like, we should really be doing tiers on the show. So I think you probably all know this, but if you haven't seen this, there is a site called Tier Maker. I think it's tiermaker.com. And you basically talk about things being S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier. And it's a fun game to play where you just take a group of anything, video games, all-time chess players, and you rank them as to who is S, which is the best, who is A, who is B. Then you get to argue. It's fun engagement. It's something that anybody who's doing any type of content creation should do. And we're getting into it probably 5-10 years after the fact. But we had kind of been discussing that back and forth with like free agent signings. And then you and I briefly kind of brought it up for nicknames when I was pack breaking some cards. And we're like, let's start doing it. We're not quite ready to do it, but we're going to get to it possibly for free agent signings, even though we already did that. That's something we've done on the show a lot, Brian, is where we just go through a list and you and I together give our thoughts, give our grades. And it's like, yeah, we really should have had.
I think it's worth doing. The last two shows, we've done it sort of piecemeal, but maybe in a few weeks when everything is finally settled, we can go through and do the tiers.
Oh yeah, I mean we've done this. We've done free agent signings before, right? We've done not recently, way back at the start of the box score Geeks, and I haven't done it since. We do like drafts, so it's like it's such an obvious thing that we do, and it's such an obvious visual component that makes it easy to show what we say. Because I'm like, okay, here's what you do: you listen to this 2-hour podcast of me and Brian going through a list of 100 names. That's great, but the graphic is something. And then of course you can also make it and share and have other people argue with you. So perfect internet.
It's all about the arguing.
You gotta, I mean, we've kind of talked this weird thing, which is I love sports argument because it's so innocuous. It doesn't matter. Whereas as soon as you start getting to politics, there are real world ramifications. When I'm online arguing with people about if Kristaps Porzingis is valuable or not, no matter what we come away with, we're fine. Whereas when I'm arguing with someone about who to elect for governor, there's a very real chance the person they vote for, if I don't convince them, and I don't really try to convince people out here because they disagree, they're going to disagree. That person could literally be voting to take rights away from me. So that is
And yet,
terrifying.
Dre, there is a topic on the show today about sports, which has become very politicized that we're going to talk about.
I was so mad. We were behind the curve and ahead of the curve simultaneously, which is a weird thing to be, because guest of the show, New York Knicks fan Jonathan Weiler, has been on the show a few times. Amazing political scientist, great author, professor at UNC Chapel Hill, also a huge sports fan. And we had him to talk a book that he wrote called Prius or Pickup, which is about polarization in the United States. So, of course, by the time we were talking polarization with him, he's already got a published New York Times best-selling book. So we're behind the curve. But we did it in front of the pandemic. And it's just like, oh, whoa, it was quaint how we were talking polarization with him before like that. And then I think I even like tweeted at him a few times or X'd at him now, right? Whatever you want to call it, a few times. And I'm just like, did you have any idea when you were writing this polarization book that we'd be getting to arguing over like vaccines? And he was like, nope, nope.
Has
And we're
anyone
still
said
going.
this yet, Dre? That we're trying to figure out, is it Twitter? Is it X? Has anyone said this yet? I think you just take Twitter, take the T off, put an X at the beginning, Xitter, and just pronounce it shitter. I think that's what we need to be doing now. So I don't know. Has anyone else said that, or are
That's a
we
nice golf
making
clap.
it up here?
You gotta put that out. If not, I saw Sesame Street dunking on them today to date the show. We're recording July 25th, and Elon Musk just renamed Twitter X. And actually, I'll get off on this briefly because it came up on last show about why it's hard to run an NBA team. Well, while we think the analytics behind grading a player are easy, it is actually tremendously hard as a general manager, right, to make good deals. And one of the hard parts is you are probably owned by a billionaire. Your team is owned by a billionaire that just has all sorts of thoughts and opinions, and you're kind of beholden to them, and you can't really convince them one way or the other, right? If you say, I want a team with, Mason Plumlee, Gary Payton II, and Otto Porter III, and I can get them for you for a fraction of the cost of Kyrie Irving. They'll say, I don't want those players. No one's going to think our team is amazing. We need a marquee player. That kind of stuff comes in. And it becomes a glaringly apparent when you look at billionaires how oftentimes on their road to success they had a lot of bad ideas and people that were able to tell them no. I would think like George Lucas being a good example. And then as soon as they got rich enough, nobody could tell them no anymore. And you're just like, oh, your ideas were terrible. Because apparently Elon Musk got ousted at PayPal, which is where he made his first fortune, because he was just like, I want to rename PayPal X. And they were like, that is the stupidest idea ever. PayPal is synonymous. I just used PayPal to pay for the thing I want on eBay. Like PayPal is synonymous with online paying. It's up there with Kleenex, for example. And Twitter is in the same boat. And he wants to rename it. And you're like, oh, okay, just this is what happens. And Elon Musk has the exact same problem with, like, say, James Dolan of the New York Knicks. You just have really rich people that don't want people to tell them no. And if you're employed by a billionaire, you really can't tell them no, no matter how smart you are. And that's a problem. And I don't have any solutions on this thing. Let's talk basketball, I guess. All right. Speaking of billionaires, Brian, we are vastly approaching a weird world. So did you see the soccer player? Do you remember the name that I think is going to get paid 700 million for 1 year of soccer?
Oh, I think it's Mbappe, but I didn't read the article. But I think Mbappe just got paid.
And the reason, by the way, soccer gets into a weird territory that other sports don't have, which is in soccer, if you have the rights to a player, you're allowed to just like sell the rights for the season to another team if they just give you money. And like baseball has similar things with was it Daisuke? Yeah, Daisuke for the Boston Red Sox, where the Red Sox had to pay the team in Japan for the rights to sign him. So not only did they sign him to an expensive deal, they had to pay another team that. So that kind of thing just happened with him, where this team is paying 776 million, I think was the total I saw, to both pay for the transfer to the team and then pay his salary, which is ridiculous. And we are getting into an interesting territory where if we look at Spotrac, I've got to buy that trade. If Jaylen Brown is not trending, he will be soon. Jaylen Brown is about to sign a deal for $300 million for 5 years. He's getting maxed, and in his last year, he's going to be getting paid an estimated $69 million. Now, the good, I'll put in quotes, news is because basketball is a salary cap league and a max salary, so players are maxed out with what they can get paid, that is only 33% of an average team. So the irony is, despite the fact that NBA salaries are exploding, players like um, Nikola Jokic will not be able to get paid what they're worth because it's capped. Now, the flip side of this, though, is Jaylen Brown is not worth it. And by the way, let's give the we only got 3 topics, but I'll throw them out. I should have at the start. We're going to talk Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics. We're going to talk LeBron James's son and why heart problems are no joke. And then we're going to construct the tier list we're going to do next time, hopefully with some help from you, the audience, which I assume you're watching live. I didn't tweet out that you're watching live, but you could be. You could be on Twitch right now. And if you're not, you'll see us in the future. We are going to put together a list of nicknames. And then if we miss any or there aren't any on this list that we're going to go over, you can help add in 2 weeks when Brian and I go next. We're going to go over, we're going to rank them, and we're going to try and avoid arguing too much on this show. But let's start with Jaylen Brown. Brian, based on last week's show, because if you haven't listened to last week's show, everybody go back 2 weeks. And Brian and I talk a lot about like how you need to grade signing a contract. And the Jaylen Brown one, Brian, is something you're familiar with. I would consider this a B plus version of the Jordan Poole signing. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
I think it's worse than the Jordan Poole signing
Interesting.
because it's
Oh,
a
okay.
bigger contract. The supermax versus the rookie max. So we're about to say, yeah, I mean he's gonna be tradable even if it doesn't work out, but there are scenarios where he's not, right? If he gets hurt or something, this could be. But anyway, I'll let you go.
No. That's perfect. I mean, I like what you're so the logic, and you kind of made this out, which is so Jordan Poole was signed to a 4 year, $128 million contract. And that's the rookie max. So he couldn't get 5 years, he could only get four. And you'll notice that was roughly 32 million a season, whereas because of both seniority and the increasing cap in the NBA, Jaylen Brown is going to be averaging 60 million a season, which is, people that know math might recognize is about twice as much. And I think you nailed the point, which is I think any contract is tradable in the NBA. But to what you just said, all it takes is one tweak, and Jaylen Brown goes from, being a tradable contract to not. And then your own Warriors had the same thing where they traded Kevin Durant for D'Angelo Russell, and then they traded D'Angelo Russell for Andrew Wiggins. And at the time, it's like, wow, this is a horrible trade. And in hindsight, I still say that. I think Andrew Wiggins vastly outperformed expectation. And the reality, though, is Gary Payton and Otto Porter were freaking ridiculous for the Warriors. And of course, Steph Curry is going to Steph Curry. Andrew Wiggins was very much what I have called a Derek Fisher player. And that is a player that doesn't need to be a star on a star-studded team, but just needs to be above average such that the team isn't bad enough. Some players that you and I have been talking recently, Brian, that just pain me are Duckworth and Cliff Robinson for the late 80s, early 90s Portland Trailblazers, because that team had some, Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter. I'm missing another. They traded for Buck Williams at one point,
Jerome
former defensive
Kersey.
player.
Also, did you say
Jerome Kersey? Yeah, the box score Beckett guide. You know everything, and I've just read them, and I've already
the
forget.
thing is, Dre, that team was together for a long time. Like they had several playoff runs with a very similar roster until Drexler went to Houston. So yeah, that team played a lot together in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it was so, and that's the wild thing is that team had the draft rights to Arvidas Sabonis,
Yep.
and I always mess up the first name. Apologies, Sabonis. You're awesome. And two things on that. One is, had he been on the team, that's like a 70-win team and like 4 titles in a row, and that would have been ridiculous. And there is no Michael Jordan legacy. And two, friend of the show, Ty Willinghams, was saying by the time Sabonis actually came over to the NBA, he qualified as disabled. He was so beat up that like literally he could have gone on like unemployment for disability with how beat up his body was. So that just speaks like if they could have had a 25-year-old Sabonis, what could have been. So that's the point is you if you have a star-studded team, you need to not have Ducksworth. It's is it Duckworth or Ducksworth?
Duckworth.
It's Duckworth and Cliff Robinson, and that is what Andrew Wiggins qualified. But you were saying we thought D'Angelo Russell was a trade asset, and you said, I don't think he actually was that. So it's the same point where you just said I'm going to argue that Jaylen Brown is still tradable, right? Like let's look at accolades because he at bare minimum I think he's got at least one All-Star game and at least one All NBA of some sort, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was in the All-Star game this year, I think.
So he was All NBA this year. He was an All Star this year,
Yeah.
which by the way, both of those stupid slots should be going to Aaron Gordon. It is a travesty that Aaron Gordon did not make All-Star game or All NBA. And I actually think his numbers justified it because he was a star level player this season. But normally, star teams like the Nuggets being the number one team in the West, normally if you're the best team in your conference, you get a boost, right? You get a little bit of extra credit for being so good. So the fact that only Nikola Jokic got any accolades this season is ridiculous. And Aaron Gordon should have gotten what Jaylen Brown got this year, which is All NBA and All Star.
Well, I need to point out the obvious that it's tough to make that comparison because they play different positions, right? Power forward versus shooting guard are the listed positions. But I take your point. They probably should be compared.
Jaylen Brown is listed as a small has
Oh,
been
is
kind
he?
of bumped up to
Okay.
small forward, but that's also kind of one of the interesting things is he is really a shooting guard, and some of that right. This is a team that already has Jason Tatum, so it's kind of like they're doing this weird hybrid thing of like the shooting guard small forward together, and I argue you don't really need that. So yeah, we're not going to likely make the tier list, but I am curious. We are having a brief argument on this, like from S2, and we can go all the way down to F tier for grading a free agent signing, right? So there are two that I actually do want to grade on the show, which is going to be Kristaps Porzingis and Jaylen Brown. Where would you rank this? What tier?
So the tiers I'm using are S to D. There is no F. S kind of replaces A if we're thinking about grades, and then D replaces F. I don't know why it's this way. I first saw it this way in like Japanese fighting games. Like in the '90s is the first time I saw this scale. So I don't know. But anyway, if we're saying D is the lowest, I would put Jaylen Brown's deal as a C, the second lowest possible tier, just because it is tradable and he is not a bad player, but it's just so much money. If you're paying that much money, I really want a big time producer. Brown's good. Like he defends, he rebounds, which is nice for a wing. His scoring efficiency is good, but not great. So, I mean, he's a guy that I want on my team, but I would never give him the max. So yeah, a guy who's overpaid but tradable, I would say that's C tier.
Yeah, and I mean basically as a literally a shooting guard small forward, right? We for the last 4 seasons at the box score geeks, we've had him at 2.6 to 2.7. So leaning towards the small forward, but still playing a shooting guard. He has been average, literally average. Like, and it's a little rougher because, we talk about this all the time where we really think that, you know, the shooting guard position is one of the weaker in the NBA. So with that being said, you would really want to say, okay, you don't want an average shooting guard. If you're going to take average anything, you want average center. And he's not that. And I think he's going to fall in the very same category as Kristaps Porzingis, which is the following. Jaylen Brown for his career has a true shooting percentage of 57.1%. For those that don't know, true shooting is a nice amalgamation. You could kind of think like on base percentage for baseball. And what it really does is it factors in free throws, 3-point attempts, and 2-point attempts. So it's kind of saying if you kind of normalized a shot, so basically a 3-point, a free throw, and a 2-pointer, if you normalized it so that all of those counted properly for the number of possessions they cost, he's scoring like 58% of the time. And you can also, like in baseball, where you really want to factor like how often a player gets home runs and doubles, et cetera. And 58% does it, career 57.1 and coming off a 58% year. That actually seems quite good. But the issue becomes the modern NBA has changed. And a modern wing in the NBA averages 55.6%. And that is a bunch of inflation because the player we bring up a lot is Kobe Bryant. And one of my weird hot takes is nobody can grade Kobe Bryant correctly. He's either going to be too high or too low. You cannot properly list him. It's an impossible problem. Because I think I always wind up in a problem where I think I rate him higher than people like you, and I don't even think your takes are wrong. But then, of course, I rank him lower than the mainstream, where people think he's one of the greatest of all time. Kobe Bryant's career true shooting was 55.6%, which you will recognize is exactly average for a modern wing, but that was good in Kobe Bryant's
Yeah.
era.
Yep.
So shooting efficiency, primarily because of three ball, has gotten better. And because of that, it is really hard to gauge players on traditional things. I bash him all the time, but Andrew Bailey will do player A versus player B stuff. And, he'll list like shooting efficiency and stuff. And it's like, if you don't list the era, that is meaningless because numbers that looked amazing in 2000 look pedestrian now. Joel Embiid had the same raw production as Shaquille O'Neal. That is true. So it makes sense when you say Joel Embiid should be an MVP, right? He's putting up numbers like Shaq. And you go, yeah, but Shaq's numbers in the modern NBA wouldn't be that. And the same is true of Jaylen Brown. I understand that a player that averages over 30. So last year per 48 minutes, he averaged 35.3 points per 48 minutes. So what, that is easily over 20 per 36. So great scoring. 58%. That seems great. Rough thing, Brian, is actually there's a little bit of upside. Last year, he was at 33.8% from three, and career wise, he's at 36.6. But guess what the average wings 3-point shooting over Jaylen Brown's career would be?
That's a
36.3%.
36.6 on
Yeah,
Boxscore Geeks.
30
Yeah.
almost, yeah, 36.3%. So it's like basically Jaylen Brown would be an amazing 3-point scorer, an amazing shooter if you took him back to 2001, and he just isn't now. And like we need to make a quicker way to make this comparison. So if you go to boxscoregeeks.com, we do have the tools tab, and you are able to make a direct comparison for a given year. I misspelled Jaylen Brown. But if you look at Jaylen Brown, like if we want to compare what he does, why he is so average, he gets 7.5 defensive rebounds. The average small forward shooting guard gets 5.7. And it's worth noting that defensive rebounds are more team based, meaning if you get 7.5 defensive rebounds, really about half of those you would just expect your team to pick up. We actually did add that into the wins produced. He's at 1.6 offensive rebounds versus versus averages is 1.7. He is at 4.6 assists versus 3.9, but he's at 3.9 turnovers versus 2.3. He's at 0.5 blocks versus 0.6 blocks. He's at 1.5 steals versus 1.4. He's at 3.5 fouls versus 3.8. So basically, it's kind of like if you look at all those numbers, he is about as close to average as you can get. And then the one thing he's got going for him is his scoring, which is 58%. And an average shooting guard small forward is going to be 56%. So it's like he's a little bit better than an average shooting guard at shooting, which is good. But when you're going to be spending all the money, you either want him great or you want him doing other stuff.
Yeah, the turnovers are a problem when he's had the ball in his hands a lot more. Well, I mean, this is something we've been saying, right? Tatum less so than Brown, but they just haven't been as good since Kyrie Irving has left, since they had to put the ball in their hands more and score themselves more and create for themselves, to use a term that we hate. Tatum, I think, kind of has turned the corner and played pretty well in the playoffs, and I think he's just legitimate two-way star now, but Brown isn't quite there. So we'll see what happens with the point guard position there. Obviously, Smart is gone, and, are they going? I'm spacing out the name of the guy that came from Milwaukee, but is he going to?
DiVincenzo?
No. The
Oh,
on the
Brogdon.
yeah, Brogdon. Sorry, Malcolm Brogdon. Is he going to be the starter now? Is he going to be healthy? He's a really good player, so maybe he would help Brown get more efficient if he's healthy. But it's not clear to me that he is.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that is really rough about the Celtics, and I'm inclined to do like double or nothing. Last year, I bet the under on them, and I missed by one game. That's classic box score geeks. Brian had one, not Brian. Sorry, you too, because actually I think Patrick lets you buy in a couple bucks into it. So Patrick does like a pool where he used to go to Vegas yearly, and then he'd say, "Hey, if you want to buy in, he's like, I'll put down $500 to $1,000 in bets, and then at the end of the year, I'll cash you out." So, we didn't put a bunch of money, but, it was like a fun office pool thing to do. And he'd go to Vegas and put bets. And he had one year that came down to the last game of the season, and Donovan Mitchell cost us like $1,000 collectively. Thank
That's
you,
right.
Donovan Mitchell. We deserve that. So it's fair.
I think we
Um,
broke even in the end or something like
I think,
that.
but that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying is I'm saying the last game, if like the Jazz had lost,
Yep.
actually, if the Jazz had won, we would have gone up, and then he had a horrible game. And it's
There
like,
is one season where Patrick had like 3 bets going down to the end of the season
yeah,
on the last day. So yeah,
I think we're
Vegas knows
talking.
what they're doing is the lesson here.
Yeah, but what I was going to say about that is last year I took an under bet on the Boston Celtics because Rob Williams was injured, and it seemed like a great bet. And then just like Jason Tatum legitimately played like an MVP player, and then of course, as you mentioned, Malcolm Brogdon was a great pickup, and then Rob Williams III came back and actually played really well too. Now the scary part is, and we really saw this in the playoffs, is that Rob Williams just was not getting over like 24 minutes a game. It very much looked like Rob Williams was on a pitch count, if we're like using a
Absolutely.
baseball analogy. And that's the thing is, I think even Jason Tatum asked about it. He like asked Rob Williams if he was on a minutes restriction. Rob Williams was like, "No," and he's like, "Then why weren't you playing?" This is like the middle of the regular season, and then come the playoffs when the Celtics were really sniffing the finals. You're like, "What are you doing?" And the Celtics aren't like the Bucks. The Bucks with Budenholzer, who got shelved for this. Although of all the years to shelve Budenholzer, this was not. It was not his fault. That was legitimately just Giannis getting injured in game one or two. I forget which, but all of that happened, and it just became very obvious that he was on a pitch count. And I think he's injured, and he got injured last year's playoffs and then in last year's
Yep.
finals. And arguably that's 2 years in a row where injuries to Rob Williams have helped the eventual title. The Golden State Warriors and the Nuggets greatly benefited from Rob Williams not being 100%. And Malcolm Brogdon too had injury this year. So the Celtics issue is they have these really good productive players that are underpaid and underrated, but they're just not healthy. And then if you look at the players they're giving all the money to, I would agree with Tatum. But Tatum, here's a fun one, Brian. If we're talking star players in the NBA, with S being Jokic, and we don't even need to go into D. D can be so many players. Where would you rank Tatum? Would you call him an A star or a B star?
Oh, that's tough. That's really tough because I feel like he's on the rise right now. Like he's just coming into his prime in terms of age. So, I think he's A for sure, and he could become S.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, something that we kind of talked about in real time as it was happening. I seem to recall Tatum was one of the first people to go down with COVID
Oh,
when the
that's right.
pandemic started. And we were just like, all of these people getting COVID, we don't know the long-term ramifications. And if you looked at like how Jason Tatum looked when he was young, he looked amazing as a rookie. He kind of took a step back as a sophomore. It looked like they were playing him bigger. Then it looked like he kind of picked it up, and then he kind of stalled out in 2021 and 2022. And we're just like, yeah, we would have figured more progression with how he started. And last year, he actually had that leap. And you're saying he could do a Steph Curry where he has one leap and then does a second leap. And, we just don't know that, their players do not have an incentive to say, yeah, I'm at 80%. I'm not breathing as well as I would like to be. And it's going to take me. And, of course, there was not a lot of rest. Teams like the Celtics went super far in the bubble year too, right? So it's just like these players that just go super long in the playoffs and maybe had to deal with some COVID ramifications and stuff. We don't know, but yeah, he's on the uptick, and then
I
he's
think
playing bigger.
Tatum did say after the fact that the long COVID really hurt him. But here's what Celtics fans are probably yelling at us right now. They're saying, we think Derek White is going to be the point guard. He played really well in the playoffs. Maybe he's more of a shooting guard, but maybe he's a point guard. Maybe they'll just put the hands in The hands in his ball. Yeah, exactly. Or the ball in his hands.
Hands in his gonna get us
Sorry.
demonetized there. Is he still on the team? I thought I
Yeah, I'm pretty
saw
sure they re-signed him, brought him back.
Derek White. Let's just see Spo track. I mean, Derek White, right? Oh, okay. What year is that? Sorry. Yeah, he's still on the team as far as I understand.
Yeah.
Sorry, the last contract he signed was with the Spurs, and then the Spurs, for whatever reason, traded him to the Celtics. He's ridiculous. Okay, so here's the thing. I always get scared about touching the Celtics because of this exact thing. Because Tatum, White, Brogdon are all really good, and Jaylen Brown is average to above average. So that is a good start. So it is really hard to bet against a team that has a core of four like that. And I am really dour on Kristaps Porzingis, and I am sorry, I do not believe that he is going to be a great player. Like last season seemed like an anomaly, and I will stress this: in his career, Kristaps Porzingis has never had a season where the following two are true: as a center being above average by wins produced numbers, and as a player having over 2,000 minutes. He did briefly for the Wizards in 400 minutes played in 2021, 2022, play above average. This was after he was traded from Dallas. But last season, which is like one of his best seasons ever, he was still significantly below average and barely cracked 2,000 minutes. He's had injury forever. And so I'm just like, even if you think Kristaps Porzingis is good, which I don't, believing he's going to be healthy is a long thing. And then, like, by the way, the Kristaps Porzingis to Jaylen Brown story is almost identical. If you go to the comparison engine at Boxscore Geeks, what you will notice is Kristaps Porzingis has a lot of points compared to an average center. Something that actually troubles me is his rebounding is below average for a 7-foot center, which is troubling. And then even when you look at his defensive stats, namely blocks, steals, and fouls, he's got zero point 0.4 more blocks per 48 minutes. And so that's a quarter, like less than a quarter of a block a quarter. That's a fun sentence. Basically, right on with steals, 1.3 versus 1.2. And then he's actually a little better at fouling. So it's like what's fascinating is his kind of tertiary defensive stats. That's block, steals, and personal fouls. He's a little bit above average at. He is not great at rebounding, which is kind of a troubling thing, especially on offense. Like you would expect an average center to average basically one offensive board a quarter,
He's
and
also
he's
one of
at
the
about
biggest players in the league.
yeah. I remember years ago at Sloan when they were looking at defensive stats, they kind of this place called Second Spectrum that does do like the tracking data for the NBA did an interesting combination of stats which had like two parts put together which are very important for defense, which is how good is the player when they are in position and how good is the player once they get in position, and those two things together are really important. And I know it sounds kind of silly and might sound just very rudimentary, but I'll kind of explain it, which is like, okay, if I have a player that gets in position to get a rebound, how often do they get the rebound versus how often does my player actually get into position to get the rebound? And those two things together are really, really important. And as an example, Andrea Bargnani this is a funny way of phrasing it, a really good defender when he defended. And that's not hard to believe because he's over 7 feet tall, but he was really bad at getting in position. And this, like with baseball, this was a complaint Bill James had in some of his old memoirs before Moneyball, like in some of his sports almanacs that he released yearly, which was in baseball, a player is graded with an error if there is a fieldable ball they miss. And Bill James had a complaint with that going, if you have a player that is able to get into position but doesn't field the ball, they'll get credited with an error. Versus if you have a player that's just not good and doesn't get in position to get the ball, it'll get called a clean hit. And that seemed kind of wrong to him. And it's the same kind of point here, which is going in basketball. Typically, if you're above 7 feet, you are just going to be a good defender if anybody comes up next to you. As an example, Manute Bol, who I think I was way too hard on him when I've looked back in time, Brian, realized he was a really good player as a rookie and just fell apart. Like that's what's really obvious. Manute Bol was an amazing blocker, meaning if you got near Manute Bol, you were not scoring. But his flaw was that he could not get in front of people, right? He could not stop people. So the fact that Kristaps Porzingis is bad at rebounding to me, for anybody that's like, he's a really good defender, is kind of troubling because I'm like, shouldn't he be better at getting into position to get the ball if he's that good? And then the weird thing, like I said, the inflation point, He has 62.6% true shooting, which in most eras of basketball would be phenomenal. The NBA has gotten so good that the average center averages 62.3%. So it's just going Kristaps. Now, here's a funny thing, Brian. Sorry to immediately do the economist thing and do on both hands. I do think there is one tweak I would like to do the wins produce formula that everybody's going to go, of course, we agree. And here's the thing, I would have had no complaint if people had done this tweak. My hope when we first started Wages of Wins back in the day and I helped out Dave Barry and started giving him the numbers, and even my hope when, say, Patrick started making the box score Geeks says, oh, great, a bunch of people are going to take the underlying math of wins produced and make their own good metric versions. And we did not get that. We got things like BPM, which are terrible. This tweak I would like, which is namely this. One flaw we have is we grade all of Kristaps Porzingis' shots as a center, meaning
Mm.
Kristaps Porzingis takes 23 field goal attempts per 48 minutes and 9.5 free throw attempts per 48 minutes. But the average center only takes 16 shots per 48 minutes and 5.5 free throws. I really think you should take the excess, the 8 additional or the 7 additional shots and the 4 additional free throws he takes per 48 and count them at the next smallest position. Count them as a power forward. And you should do this for a team, right? Basically, I don't believe in positionless basketball, but I do think this is very simple logic. If you look at, say, the 76ers with Joel Embiid and James Harden, the funny reality is you want Joel Embiid to Joel Embiid's the best shooter on that team. I'm conflicted that he won MVP. We've talked that a lot on the show. I'm conflicted that he won MVP because Jokic deserved it. But I'm also happy that the NBA is like, what if this highly efficient center, we had them take all the shots instead of these like mediocre shooting guards?
Yeah, yeah. It, so this is one of those stats versus conventional wisdom arguments that's really tough, right? Is of course we want to get the ball into the hands of the best shooters in the right place every possession that we can, but that's difficult to do because we have defenses, right? So then people start valuing players that are the he's a bucket type of player, right? That can score inefficiently out of isolation. So, I mean, yeah, this is an age old coaching problem in the NBA, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, I just, but yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I'll actually give the agreement on Kristaps Porzingis. I think the numbers are there to boost him to be above average because I do think he is a good scorer and you want him shooting. I just think the problem is if you trot him out as a center, he is not doing well enough at the other stuff to make him great. He's very much like Klay Thompson, in my opinion. When Klay Thompson was healthy, it's kind of been a bummer since then. But even then, it's just like that's the problem is if you're going to be spending the money, you can't be doing it on a player like that, and that just gets weird. So the good news for the Celtics is if Kristaps Porzingis is healthy, they actually have, I think, because they're saying, let's say Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. This is where things might start getting scary because he hurt him in the playoffs. Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Malcolm Brogdon. Depending on your belief of Al Horford or the health of Rob Williams, they basically, if Rob Williams and Kristaps Porzingis can be the bigs, the primary bigs, and Malcolm Brogdon can be the six man and Derek White can play the starting, this is actually a good team. And this gets into the very silly argument I've noted, which is Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis are overpaid, overrated, but they could actually still work on the squad if Jason Tatum keeps up what he's been keeping up. And if they're getting Kristaps Porzingis and are going to play Kristaps Porzingis and Rob Williams and Al Horford still, Tatum's going to play smaller and he'll actually look better by the numbers.
I've always been a fan of the Celtics in this recent era just because they're a defensive team and almost everyone on this team can play defense. To your point a few minutes ago, though, Porzingis's reputation on defense, I think, is mixed amongst most NBA observers. Some people like what he does, some don't. I'm kind of on the negative on his defense, but I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, I wish he would rebound more. your point
I mean, I
about,
think he probably was a better defender when he's young. He's just, I mean,
yeah,
that's one of the
injuries.
roughest parts. Yeah.
I think well, again, I'm comparing to the Kyrie Irving era when they were, went a little bit farther, or maybe they didn't go farther. Maybe they went the same, and I'm having like fond memories, or maybe their offense was better at least. But I mean, yeah, they have so much talent and so many defenders and some guys that can maybe score. I'm very positive on this team. Can I have a slight aside here? Have we talked about Luke Cornett before on the show? I don't think we have.
I
He's
think
like
we've mentioned him and said we liked him, but yeah.
he's like the third string center. He doesn't really matter that much. I don't know how good he is, but he's an innovator, Dre. He does this type of defense called I think it's called the Eclipse. Have I talked to you about this before?
No, let's hear. I want to hear more. What do
Okay,
we got?
so Luke Cornett is like Porzingis body type, super tall, super skinny, over 7 feet tall. So what he started doing it is instead of doing a defensive rotation and trying to rotate out on a perimeter players, he's going to do drop coverage instead, like a lot of big, tall 7-footers will do. And when the opposing player shoots, even though he's not guarding them, he still jumps up in the air and puts his hand up with the idea of he's blocking the vision of the shooter, even though he's not near them. And it looks
And, it,
really funny, but some people have looked at this and are like, on plays when he does this, it does seem to have an effect on the shooting percentage.
and isn't that like an so this is funny. Like when we talk old coaching mantras, um, I was laughing because Coach Nick, one of our favorites, B-ball breakdown on Shitter, right? And hopefully on Blue Sky if he's not yet. But and I forget if we said that I don't remember if that made the show, but Brian was saying X, you
Oh,
can
I did
pronounce it
say
that
it
way.
live. Yeah, I did say it live.
Okay, so we did say it live. Excellent. But all I was gonna say is sorry. Coach Nick was tweeting out about boxing out and saying how we're all taught that you just box out no matter what. And was saying, I don't, what was it Derek White that made that? It was someone else who made the absurd rebound in game 6
I
of
can't
the,
remember.
I'll look it up in just a sec. But he was basically saying like that conventional wisdom is wrong, that the best rebounders know how to get in position and watch the ball and know this stuff. So that is really really fascinating. And then I could
My
also
understanding, Dre, is that modern trainers that are training basketball for rebounding, what they say, what you're saying, don't box out, but instead give them like one forearm to push off and then go. You push them and then go. That's better than boxing out. That said, some people have said that the reason why the Warriors can compete these days, even with the smaller team, is because they are ridiculous. Their veterans, anyway, are ridiculous at boxing out. So I think in general, you're right that people are moving away from boxing out.
yeah. And okay, so by the way, it was Derek White, by the way. That was that absurd last second play that I did want to give credit to. So yeah, he's still on the team. But yeah, the conventional wisdom of hands up, right? You always want to have hands up on defense. It's interesting to see that's there. And I mean, I could also buy one thing I've heard on the rebounding front is the best rebounders, people like Dennis Rodman. It was almost baseball in that what made them so amazing is they could watch the shot and be able to know where it was going to go. So they'd know if they should crash the glass or just run back on D, right? Or on offense, right? Because they'd know it was going to go in or whatever. I could buy this eclipse strategy that you're saying is also good in one of the funny nits that I'm going to give to Kristaps Porzingis, who I think by the numbers is a good offensive player. And that is he's not great at offensive rebounds. And it's like if you eclipse the shot, they might not only do they not does it obstruct their
Interesting.
view that they're trying to make. I could also buy that it obstructs their chance at an offensive rebound, which is a good easy putback.
Yeah, and that's the thing is if you're not trying to block the shot, maybe you should be, trying to rebound if you're if you're a 7-footer. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is a coaching question, so it's way out of my league.
And I do, yeah, I want to look up Luke Cornett's numbers
I
really
will say
quick.
one thing about hand position though. I've seen again. I don't know. I just look at different basketball coaches that you're supposed to follow the ball. So if the offensive player is holding the ball above their head, you keep your hands up. But if they're dribbling it down low, you should keep your hands down low as you're guarding them.
And
Anyway,
actually, this is rough. Luke Cornett is a significantly above average player. That's even before factoring in D. And one now, ironically, he is not good at rebounding, so that is ridiculous to kind of look at.
he's
Is it
out
just
there doing the eclipse. I don't know.
he's good at shooting efficiency? So it's
He's
like
not very mobile. I mean, he's really tall.
he's really good at blocks and doesn't foul. I mean, that's pretty much it, and
Yep.
really good at scoring. So I don't know. Yeah, the Celtics
They
might
might
get
need
all of.
him with Porzingis and Rob Williams. They're
Yeah, I
not the
mean,
best health.
this
But
this is
I
very
didn't
this.
comment on Porzingis yet, actually. I pretty much agree with you. I think he does have a chance to play better in Boston, considering better players around him, right? You know, Dallas, obviously Luka is great, but there's been some weird coaching stuff there. I think he could do well. It's just the health is such a big question. I'm really worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree on that, and I've talked myself back a little on both Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis. Jaylen Brown, the really rough thing, especially if you are a contender, this is the hardest problem, and the Warriors were in the same boat, which is if you have a rookie on a rookie scale, a player on a rookie scale contract, and you don't think they're going to be worth the extension, then really, really, really you want, or even actually Jaylen Brown was already on an extension. If you have a player that you don't think is going to be worth a veteran extension, you really want to trade them out. However, if you are a contender, another rule I've had is you never get rid of a player unless you replace them with equal value. So that's like my point on like Jalen Brunson with the Mavericks is it's going, even if they thought they were going to overpay for him, which I don't think they would have if they offered him his asking price when he was still potentially a restricted free agent with them. You just have to do it because you're a contender and you can't afford to lose a player for nothing. And you can't and that's the other problem with like Jalen Brunson is like or Brown, Jalen Brown, too many Jalen's trying to trade Jalen Brown, trying to make sure you get a player that's going to replace him on your squad when your squad is already pretty, that this is a team that's made multiple conference finals. To your point on Kyrie Irving, they made back-to-back conference finals with Kyrie Irving. I mean, this team has made 4 conference finals and a finals in the last six,
I take
7 years.
pleasure in talking up Kyrie Irving, but it is what it is.
No, it was good. But I mean, that's the problem is when you are a team that is title worthy and you go, this player is going to get overpaid, but there is I'm not going to be able to upgrade or replace them intelligently. And we talked a lot about that on last week's show, which is like, if I've got a player that is $20 million in contract, and man, it's quaint how that is going down. That's a third of the max now. It's ridiculous. I got a player that's $20 million. Well, yeah, maybe I can upgrade Kyrie Irving to, a Gary Payton or something. And I don't, that doesn't even make any sense. Kyrie Irving, that's the point. Is like the only players you could upgrade Kyrie Irving to are like Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, and you're not trading him for that. Now, maybe you can match his production with a player like I was saying with like Gary Payton, but Gary Payton's like 5 million, Kyrie Irving's 20. So the only way you make that trade work is if you trade for an additional 15 million in assets, and no one's going to want to like, you're not going to be able to do that. So it is really hard to tinker with a title squad. And then you wind up in the boat that they're in here, which is
Yeah.
you couldn't find anything to trade Jaylen Brown for that was going to help your team to a title. Now, we might disagree. There might have been trades there, but that is still a hard problem to do. And also, you don't want to tick off players on your team in the middle of a title run, right? Like, you don't want your players getting upset and demanding out because they hear they're on the trading block. So then you come up on free agency, and we just said either you re-sign Jaylen Brown, overpay him, but you still have a good player on your squad, or you let him walk and you can't recoup that. Like the NBA just doesn't work that way. That is the hardest part about salaries. The NBA doesn't work that by not, it's not that by going, if we don't sign Jaylen Brown, we have 60 million to spend. It's if we
That's
don't
right.
resign Jaylen Brown, we have zero to spend because we're already over the cap. We are allowed to go over the cap to re-sign him, which is a rule that came into place because of Larry Bird. The Celtics argued for it. But if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be able to do it. So that's the situation they're in. So it's like they can either repay Jaylen Brown by 20 million a season or something, or they get nothing. So I mean, and that's what makes it really hard to tinker with, and that's what makes it really hard to. And really, the Celtics is just going to come down to health, which has been the MO for years now. So
It's yeah.
all that.
No, I was just gonna say briefly. Yeah, I mean, if you're a competing team and you have existing stars and you're making a run, you're limited in what you can do, right? You are locked in, and I'm sure Tatum and the other players are like, we want Brown back, so it's tough to do. That said, I still would have found a way to get off of Jaylen Brown. I think they had to do that. And if they do have some injuries this year, like things could get really bad for them. But
Yeah, really, really need to be in the Warriors mindset, which is just like if there is a good trade for Jaylen Brown that comes up, dear God, take it, and I could buy one of those happening.
yeah,
Okay, that's all the notes I had there. That was a lot. I might write more about Kristaps Porzingis or Jaylen Brown. I'm going to try and get an article out before the end of the month, but there are reasons that might be difficult for me, Brian. Anyway, I'm going to talk briefly about LeBron James's son, Bronny. This is really rough. Apparently, he suffered a cardiac arrest. That's all I've seen. Um, I don't even want to really dignify a lot of the anti vax conspiracy stuff that's come up. The simple note about sports fans I want to make, if you're not a big sports history aficionado like Brian and myself, is there is a long history of top athletes that have cardiac issues or other health issues that just aren't you don't know about. The most recent one that I can easily think of is Chris Bosh and the Miami Heat. I actually have a lot of respect for the Miami Heat. I don't have a lot of respect for the Hall of Fame that didn't just vote him first ballot because he should have been, especially since he had to retire early. But the Miami Heat are like, we're not playing you. It's too much of a risk because there were blood clots found in his lungs. And for all reasons, right? Chris Bosh had like had over 10 all-star appearances, right? Made what, four finals runs with the Heat. Just an absolutely amazing player. I think his stats took a hit playing next to LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, but just a great player that just out of nowhere, like in his 30s, is told you are not healthy enough to play basketball, which seems ludicrous. A player I brought up on the Nerd Numbers stream when I was pack breaking, you were actually on that stream, Brian, is Reggie Lewis, who was a player
yep.
that died. Didn't die playing for the Celtics, but had like cardiac issues that were discovered with the Celtics and died. I can't remember the player's name, and this is hurting. Like this is rough, but the one of the starters for the Texas A&M team that was the subject of the movie Glory Road, the first all African American started. So all five starters on the team were African American to win the NCAA title. One of their players had a heart issue that forced him to retire from playing competitive basketball, and I think he might have died young as well. So it's just going. This happens and is scary, and I don't know. I don't know the state of it. We'll find out more. But one, this had nothing to do with the vaccine. I really hate that that's gotten polarized. Two, this is terrifying. We hope that he is healthy. I mean, this has got to be terrifying for LeBron James. I can't even imagine having to deal with that, with a kid. And we'll just hope for the best and hope he can still keep playing basketball or at bare minimum stay healthy.
Yeah, I'll just talk briefly on this. There's plenty of everyday people that don't understand vaccines and maybe don't know what's going on, but a lot of the people that I think you're talking about are elites that are probably vaccinated themselves and are just trolling, and they just don't care that it's people's lives on the line. They have no remorse that a million people are dead and that 200,000 of them could probably still be alive if we managed it better and didn't have all this bullshit. So, yeah, I mean, it's just completely irresponsible.
And to keep briefly partisan, it's worth noting that George W. Bush was actually a huge pandemic. I don't know the word, like that was a big concern of his. And
Yes. He put a
all the
lot of
things
things in place that helped us.
so for all the bad things you can say about him, and there are many, and we don't have time, we've got more trivial things on the show to go to, which
George
just
W. Bush, again, many bad things to say about him. He put in place like the wheels in motion and the funding to basically eradicate AIDS in Africa. AIDS is almost, I don't want to say it's cured, but we're a hell of a lot better than we were 20 years ago. And he played a big factor in that.
doesn't that that's like when you have to compliment that's like complimenting Kyrie Irving as a
Well, it's
player. You
the
just
Onion article. Worst
yeah,
person you know
yeah,
actually makes a good point.
yeah, like George W. Bush and Kyrie Irving are two people like, yeah, all right. But that exact thing is like this wasn't partisan as recently as 15 years ago, right? So it's kind of ridiculous that it is now. And I just have no place for it at this point. If you're in my comments on Twitter or X, here's an annoying reality, Brian, that another worse person, same thing. For all of the horrible stuff Elon Musk has been doing with transphobia, like you get into this. One of the most hilarious points is someone said, now Elon Musk is going to see what it feels like when someone doesn't respect a name change. So that's kind of amusing. But I'll say, yeah, on X right now, which I don't know how much longer I'll be on it, depending on how it goes. You'll still see people saying that. I'm just going to block, mute, move on. And yeah, no, this is terrifying and scary. And as both a parent and a basketball fan, not something you want to see. But we briefly thought we'd mention. All
Well, I
right,
guess I'll
Brian,
just say that he's already out of the hospital, so I'm hoping he
that's
makes a
good.
full recovery.
And then just the question is, can he still play? But I mean, that's another
Who
hard part,
knows?
just to respect the love of the game. And we're big wrestling fans on the show, big sports fans on the show, and it's such a weird dichotomy to go like these people knowingly are giving up long-term health for an activity they love. They're adults, and I don't know the right answer. And when we were talking like Chris Bosh, if he should have to retire, we had this discussion too. So I don't know. So my hope is that he is able to do what he wants to do. I mean, to the point, he is LeBron James's son, and depending on how generous his dad is, I mean, hopefully won't have to worry about it, but we'll see. All right, silly topics, by the way, Brian. Let's come out hot to keep to take it up a notch, down a notch, whatever you want to call silliness. We're going to talk nicknames. I have a list of 101 best nicknames. I'm sure some are going to be missing. So, same point, tweet at me, X at me, and Brian, Blue Sky at me, and Brian. Brian is B Foster on Blue Sky and Boxscore Brian on X. I am Nerd Numbers on both. If there are any names we leave out, I am curious. I don't know if it'll be on the list. What do you think about King James as a nickname? Should that make should that I mean, I think it makes the cut to be one we should discuss.
Depends what your
So I'm going to put
criteria
on the list.
are. I put it in the same category as of Sir Charles, in that it's like, an impactful nickname from a Hall of Fame player, and pretty good nickname overall. But I believe in democracy, Dre. I'm anti-monarchy, so fuck the kings and the knights and all those
All right.
titles.
All
But
right. So it's so to explain what we're going to do, like I said, we're going to do a tier. I'm hoping to do a tier show next show. And I'm also hoping to start building tools for me and Brian to be able to automate it and maybe share some of those tools with other people because it's fun. This is one of the most fun things to do as fans. We just weren't quite ready. I get to brag about this, Brian. I took my kid instead of spending an hour or two getting a tier list ready. I took my son to the skate park. He's learning to skateboard,
oh,
and he actually managed to go down a very small ramp, stay on, and then there was like a little one to go up and come back down and actually keep like that's a hard thing to learn for because he's pretty young. A hard thing to learn, which is when you go down and then go up a hill and start coming back down, how to keep your balance. And he managed to do that once. So I was very happy. But so that's why I didn't get the tier chart ready, but that was fun to do. But we're just going to collate a list of nicknames for next show and then hopefully get tools in place for it to be easy for us to do this really quickly for all sorts of fun subjects, like all-star game kind of stuff. So for the nickname ones, we're just pruning it. We're not going to go over what tier we think it is. I'm going to be mean and say I'm going to put King James on the list, but basically for some of these nicknames, if neither of us thinks it belongs on the list, it doesn't go. And Brian, this is one rule that I'm hoping you don't disagree with me on. I think it needs to be one nickname per player.
yeah, absolutely. Their top nickname, whatever that is.
So to
Yeah.
that point, I'm assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong, round mound of rebound has to be the Sir Charles.
No, I think Sir Charles is number one. There's
You're
even
gonna
a
go with
no. There's an ad campaign. Remember, um, I like he was wearing royal clothes and holding court and all that. No, it's definitely Sir Charles.
I will respect that. And then if there's enough disagreement in either on any of the socials, we can go there. All right, 101 on the site is James Harden the beard.
Oh yeah, I
That
mean that's good. Yeah,
that's worth arguing. Okay, I'm not yeah. I'm not. Okay, this one I like the name. I don't know. These are newer, but Cool Hand Luca.
I've never heard that one. I mean, I am a well. Speaking of Oppenheimer, Dre, my Leslie Groves is Paul Newman, who's the actor in Cool Hand Luke, not fucking Matt Damon. Of course, the 1989 movie Fat Man and Little Boy that was kind of similar. So
Huh.
anyway, yeah, I'll go with Cool Hand Luca. Sure, that's a good one.
All right, this one has to be there, right? Mr. Basketball for George Mikan.
Yeah.
We might just put this entire stupid list on there, Brian. That's
Well,
on
these
me.
are
All right.
all really big time players. I think I think if the player is really good and known, they have to be on there, even if their nickname is bad.
Yeah, well, in some cases that'll be the fun, like like Chris Paul or whatever. If we
Exactly.
think, all right, Jesus Shuttleworth. Okay, there's
Yes,
that and
that's
this
a good
and I'm
one.
gonna and I shouldn't be giving this away because I said we weren't going to be doing tiers tonight, but like that's
Oh no, we're this is pre-work. This is,
yeah, this is he's 98 on this list of 100. That is too low. That is I'm giving away. That's not getting it because on our list, right? That would be a D
well, I
tier.
mean, for people our age, like Ray Allen, yeah, he was, yeah.
All right, Rob Williams, aka the Time Lord. I'm just moving on. That makes it.
I mean, the
All
easy
right,
S tier, we can put
yeah.
that already.
Oh, don't. Yeah, we're both.
I know, I'm
Yeah.
cheating. I'm cheating.
All right. I don't think it's S tier, but this will be fun. All right, Garbage Man. I wasn't aware of this nickname for Cedric Sabalos. Cedric
I didn't know
Sabalos.
that was his nickname, which is funny because he was a small forward.
Yeah.
I guess he got some
I
offensive rebounds.
I'm apathetic to it.
My friends and I, okay, so I was in high school when during his heyday. My friends and I called him Cedric Onions because Sabalos is similar to Cebollos, but of course the Spanish word for onions. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want on the list or not?
I can go either way.
I'm going to say no. I'm not. I don't want to waste the. We've already wasted enough air on that. This one is cool. Yao Ming, the Great Wall.
Yes.
Yeah, it's easy. All right. I was not aware of this one for. This is interesting. This is Corliss Williamson. You might recognize him because he's an NCAA big name,
Yeah.
but I guess he was called Big Nasty.
Yeah, the name that I heard from was Scoreless Corliss.
That's a much. I'm liking some of your nicknames. I'm
But
apathetic to it
I
unless you
think I
want.
remember Big Nasty. Yeah, I mean, he could be on there one
All
way or the
right.
other.
Big Nasty. Corliss Williams. All right. Little General for Avery Johnson. I don't know.
Yeah, I can go either way on that. I like Avery
Yeah,
Johnson.
I'm just gonna go on. Okay, Mad Dog for Fred Carter.
Yeah, that's one of the most classic nicknames. I mean,
That's
he coached for a long time as an addition to playing, so yeah.
I like it.
And it's
Okay.
also a good name.
Now no way I'm gonna go. Well, we'll see. Basically, yeah, Baby Jordan for Harold Miner.
Oh, see this one I have some affinity for it because it was a big thing at the time, right? Very briefly, but he won the slam dunk contest. Never was a player in the league, of course. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, if you go with I don't know and I'm apathetic, I'll move on.
Okay.
And then we'll see if there are arguments. Okay, the site is stalling on me, but I was gonna say Junkyard Dog for
Good pro
Jerome
wrestler.
Williams.
Oh, Jerome Williams. That's right, on the Nets. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
All right, love it. Junkyard Dog. All right, done and done. Okay, the Latvian Laser for Davis Bertans. I like the nickname. Like, that's a cool nickname. So I'm just gonna throw it on
Okay.
because
I hadn't heard that one.
that's a cool one. Ah, this is a rough one. Marvin Barnes was nicknamed Bad News.
I don't even know who Marvin Barnes is.
So he joined the ABA instead of the NBA. I'm going to move on, but that's just sad. He's nicknamed Bad News because he made a bunch of bad decisions.
Not because it
All
was
right.
bad news to defend him. Nah, that's too bad.
All right. This is an interesting one, and I'm already going to say yes because, like, if your no name is your nickname, but Rip Hamilton, which like is odd to me
Yeah.
because yeah, he's Richard Hamilton, but he learns it. Okay, this fits a weird criteria of nicknames I've used before. He apparently got that when he was a kid because he would rip his diaper off all the time.
That's
So he got
funny.
nicknamed Rip Hamilton, which is very close to Richard Hamilton, and he kept it. Love it. All right, this one there is no debate, Brian. Some of these are easy. I'll try and make sure you have time to talk on some of these if I just go quick. But Chris Birdman Anderson,
Oh, yeah.
of course, that's going on there.
Charles Barkley really put him over, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the arguments we made, we spent all this time talking to Celtics. This is something Arturo Galletti knows is Chris Birdman being loyal to the Nuggets probably cost the Celtics a title because they were really going for him and he could have
Ooh.
signed with them. but I think he had like loyalty to the Nuggets because he had like drug issues and had really fallen from when he was on the Hornets. So he comes to the Nuggets like rehab him. He plays great for the Nuggets. So instead of going to a contender with the Celtics, he stuck around with the Nuggets. Celtics have another title of Birdman is there to back up when Kendrick Perkins gets injured.
Could be.
All right, the Alaskan Assassin for Trajan Langdon.
Yeah, I love that one.
All right,
I love that one. I
Alaskan
thought he
Assassin.
might have done better than he did in the NBA, but he didn't do that well. He was a good
Played
college player.
3 seasons, and he's the general manager of the Pelicans now.
He is from Alaska as well. Makes sense, I guess.
I was not aware that this was. Do you know? Let's throw this as trivia to you. Bill Bradley's nickname,
I don't. Rip in peace.
Dollar Bill. I don't like it. I don't care. But
He
I
was a
mean,
good player,
and he
and
was a senator,
almost got the presidential nomination one time.
and then also, I remember him from the infamous Bill Bradley was a son of a bitch sketch on SNL. So I'm moving on. Dollar Bill, whatever, but I'm moving on from that.
Wait,
And if
that's
I
not.
some
You're talking about the Chicago Bears super fans, right? That's not Bill Bradley. That's a slightly different
no,
guy.
no, 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 no. Look up. Bill Bradley was a son of a bitch. It was like Will Ferrell, and it was always
Oh,
like them talking about all the amazing things
not Bill
Bill Bradley.
Brasky. I thought it was Bill Brasky.
Or was it Bill Brasky?
Yeah, that's the Bears. Yeah.
All right, all right. I'll look this up. I'll do research before next show. This one gets on for sure. The truth for Paul Pierce. That's not even a question, and we'll see if he winds up in the same boat that he had before, namely overrated, underrated. Great, but not as great as he should be. If he's going to get upset, Dwayne Wade as the Flash.
I kind of forgot that he was the
I
Flash.
I give. I mean, that is his nickname.
I thought his
I'll
nickname
give
was
it to
D
him.
Wade.
Hmm. What do you think? Do you want to do D Wade for Wade or Flash? And I
I'm
given some
ambivalent
spoilers,
either way.
I'm going to put Flash on because for heroes you need villains, for S tiers you need D tiers.
Yeah.
Sorry to be a spoiler.
Yeah.
I was not. I'm inclined to put this on there because I was not aware this was his nickname. A lot of the players that are going to be in the 70s and 80s, I'm just not going to be as aware of. But Cedric Maxwell was nicknamed Cornbread.
I didn't know that either, but I love cornbread, so that's a good nickname.
I like it. It was he apparently resembled someone. Okay, this is funny because this next nickname I think I have a more affinity for than the name it's parroting. But Matt Bonner, do you remember what his nickname was?
No, no, but I think he might have been on some of those Rockets title teams. Maybe like he was
We
not
have a
bad.
couple of these because I can't remember if Brian Scalabrine is the white mamba, but Matt Bonner is the red mamba.
That's funny.
All right, downtown Freddie Brown. I
I've
like the
no,
nickname. I wasn't aware of him,
I
but
don't know who that player is.
I'm gonna move on from it. But interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm
Mr.
sorry, I'm by
Basketball.
Mr. Big Shot for Chauncey Billups.
Oh, Mr. Big Shot. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yep, sorry. He's gonna make the list no matter what, but of course. Okay, another one. This one's gonna go on as well. Big Shot Bob / Rob for Rob Ory.
Yep,
Yep,
that's a
deserves it.
classic. One of the best of his era in nicknames.
Oh, and this one, by the way, Brian, this is actually what inspired some of this. Because I found this player in a card. Like I found one of his cards and I thought it was really cool. Eric Sleepy Floyd. Of course, that's going on.
Yeah, and I was telling you about this. I might have even posted this on Facebook when the Warriors won their first title of the new era in 2015. I was like, I've been waiting for this since the Sleepy Floyd game, which was 1987. So it was a while.
And he put up a 20 points over par, 50-point playoff game, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, they were a crappy team, but they avoided elimination in that game, beat Magic and Kareem. It was an epic game.
Before losing to Magic Kareem
Before
on it, but it's
losing later on the series, but
very similar to say the Heat, where like the Heat punching out the Celtics at home in Game 7, and the Heat punching out Denver at home. Period.
yeah.
Like you just got to give hats off. It's like, yeah, you weren't a title team, but that's ridiculous. I'm gonna put Kawhi Leonard the Claw on there. That's fine. Sorry if I'm giving stuff away where I'll feel
Yeah.
about it long term. It's not a horrible thing. Anyway. Do you know Bill Cartwright's nickname?
Oh, I think I do, but I forgot. Tell me.
Medical Bill.
No, I didn't. That's also a terrible nickname. Really, is
Basically
he
because
hurt all
and
the time? Is
it's
that what?
yeah, that's why he got it. I'm not putting it on there. Apparently Chuck Person, who
Oh, the
won Rookie of
rifleman
the
you're talking about.
all
That's a
right,
good one.
that easily makes it.
Oh yeah.
That's a that's a good nickname, though, what you could
He
probably
was one of
argue
the
is.
first, 3-point shooters in that era, along with Reggie Miller.
And it was basically there was an old his mom's was a fan of an old West TV show called The Rifleman. The
That's funny.
Rifleman. All right. Interesting. Huh. This is a horrible nickname, but I like the player. Do you know John Havlicek's nickname?
I don't.
I'm not putting
Oh,
it on the list.
Hondo. It's Hondo, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
did know that.
Did you do you want to add it?
Ah,
Apparently
it's kind
it's
of a dated reference, isn't it?
it's because it's named after an old John Wayne movie because a friend of his
Exactly.
couldn't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like this nickname, but apparently Allah Abdel Nabab
Allah Abdel
Ab
Nabi.
thank you.
Yeah.
His nickname was the alphabet
I didn't
because he
know
had so
that.
many letters in his name.
His teammate was Dino Raja, a little bit shorter name.
Yeah, I fine. I this one I feel was ripped off. I always thought this was Brian Scalabrine, but
Hmm.
apparently Darko Milicic is the one who has the Human Victory cigar nickname.
Oh, that's because they won the title when he was like rookie or second year and he didn't play at all.
Yeah, it was when he was a rookie and he was just off the bench. I thought
I
that
mean,
was
that's not
Dark,
a real nickname. That's just like a troll.
and I've heard other players, like I said, I would give that to Brian Scalabrine before I'd give it to Darko. So now this one, I wasn't aware this was the nickname Brian, but I love this one. Bill Lambier. Do you know this one?
Oh, I can't remember. Just tell me.
Prince of Darkness.
Oh, I didn't know that one. I thought it was
And
something different.
that is a cool nickname, and
That
he's
is
cool.
kind of how he played, like Satan.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This one, and I think there have been some like pictures of Bill Lambier in a mask, so he's like,
Yeah,
that's
he took a
perfect.
lot of punishment.
I kind of hate this one, but maybe we can add it to your point. Big ticket for Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, that's always yeah, that's his nickname. I've always been like, eh. It's kind of a boring nickname, but
I'm
it's
gonna
definitely
I'm,
his nickname.
I'm gonna add it there. All right, this one is automatic. By the way, I'm gonna have a huge shout out to whoever I'm gonna get the author of this because this is USA Today, the Rookie Wire, and I got to get the title. I'm gonna risk it because whoever wrote this is awesome. This is by Thomas Neumann. It's either Newman or Neumann, how depending on if you're going to do German pronunciation or not. Definitely a German name. This is an April 1st, 2021. So great list, Thomas Neumann. And then I was just going to say, because all of these are good, like this is taking longer than I thought, but that's fine. Steve Francis, Steve
Stevie
Franchise
franchise.
Francis. I love it.
It's pretty
That's a
good.
great nickname. And one of the reasons it's one of my favorite, honestly, is that it's also the proof that in the NBA that like anybody can be traded. You can be the franchise player and you offer Tracy McGrady
Yep.
for that. And it's like, sorry, you're gone. Love it.
He was one of the original Vancouver Grizzlies, right? One of the
Oh
few.
yeah. Didn't he I thought he threatened to sit out and
Yeah,
got
maybe.
traded.
That
Okay,
yeah, that sounds
actually,
right.
oh, man, I'm forgetting a player's name. I found a player in 1989-90 hoops that I was breaking recently, and this player got traded for Steve Francis. So I was like, was the person who got Steve Francis on the Rockets, and I was like, okay, this person is inadvertently responsible for T Mac. Artist Gilmore's nickname was the A Train.
I
Hmm.
love the player.
Yeah, I'll put it on there just because if you're that good, I will give you the respect. Okay, so Dan Marley was nicknamed Thunder Dan.
It's a
So
good
this
one.
one, that's a pretty good
He was known as a
nickname,
dunker is the main reason for that.
and he was a good player. I got
He was a good 3-point shooter even.
I think I can't remember if it's his rookie card or Havel or Hornacek, but I got one of their rookie cards. All right, Silk for Jamal Wilkes.
Oh yeah, love Jamal Wilkes.
All right, Jamal
Actually, I think
Wilkes,
Jamal was even like he changed his name, right? Because he was Keith before that. But I
and
think
oh,
that was a real name, not a nickname.
and of course you should also like him because he won a title with your
That's
Warriors.
right. That's right.
All right, Vernon Maxwell was nicknamed Mad Max.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're
Love
gonna
Vernon
okay.
Maxwell. Love Vernon Maxwell big
All
time.
right.
He's like talking trash to people on Twitter like 20 years after he retired. He's amazing. He's the guy who tried to go up in the stands to fight a fan one time. Like he's just he really was Mad Max.
How if you like this one, but Tom Heinsohn was nicknamed Ack Ack.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And
Or
they because
nor
they were
what that
saying
even
it was the
means.
sound of a Tommy gun. I hate this.
That's a reach.
Yeah.
That's a reach.
Billy Pultz has the nickname the Whopper
I don't know
because he
who that
likes fast
is.
food.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't. This one I might have to. Well, actually, this is funny. So I always thought this just was his name, but Mookie Blaylock, but his real name
Oh,
is Darren,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
got that nickname from his kid, or from his sisters as a kid. I like him, but I don't know if I'm going to give him the nickname.
Yeah, another former warrior. Also the original name of the band Pearl Jam,
Yep.
which
But
is a weird piece of
eh,
trivia.
unless you really want Mookie Blaylock on the list, I'm passing.
I mean, you know me, I say put them all on there, but
All right. All right. Next one. Apparently, Kristaps Porzingis was nicknamed the Unicorn by Kevin Durant.
ugh. I
I
hate the
hate this
term
nickname.
unicorn.
I hate the nickname. I hate
Look at all those unicorn tech companies in Silicon Valley. They all fucked us over. I hate that term.
yeah. All right. DeMarcus Cousins was nicknamed Boogie because Rod Strickland, former player too. Actually, Rod Strickland he's number 8 in 1989-90 hoops. He was one of the last players I was looking for. I have his rookie card. But Rod Strickland nicknamed DeMarcus Cousins Boogie because of his impressive dribbling skills. Cousins doesn't like the name. This is one of
Oh,
those where
that's funny.
I'm going to add it to the list just because he is so well known. Like I
Also,
will
his
give the
nickname gets used a lot. Like people just
yeah.
call him Boogie Cousins. I guess because Demarcus is several syllables. I don't know.
This
Rod
one's easy.
Strickland, very underrated, by the way. I love Rod Strickland.
Yeah, like I said, I got his rookie. Is a good card. Robert Tractor Trailer, of course, that's going on there. That's not a question.
Yep,
Stephen Marbury, aka Starberry.
that's a great one.
All right, yeah. Okay,
Mainly,
it's
okay.
good.
Here's the real reason. He should be in the Hall of Fame just for his shoe line alone. He was the first big star player to make affordable shoes that kids could afford, and of course, they're called the Starberry shoes. So, for his
All right,
shoes alone, he deserves to be on there.
all right. Billy Cunningham, aka the Kangaroo Kid.
I didn't
As
know
a
that
good,
was Billy Cunningham's nickname. That's funny.
I think I kind of have to because that's like kind of to what we were saying. Like if the name is big enough, if the nickname is big
Was he
enough,
Captain Kangaroo's son, the Kangaroo Kid?
oh man, I wonder if anybody even knows about that. All right. The Wind That's a good nickname, man. Michael Cage's nickname was the Windex Man.
I didn't know that either,
That's
but I
just
do love
good,
Michael
right? Clean the
Cage.
glass. Yeah, yeah.
Michael
I mean,
Cage is a
also,
good
yeah.
player.
Also, if you've got a nickname and you just know what it means, okay. Some of these are just going to be easy. Clyde the Glide Drexler.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Not even a question.
so well descriptive for how he played too.
Nate Archibald, aka Tiny
Tiny.
Archibald. I
That's a
mean,
classic.
yeah, I'll give you that. White chocolate for Jason Williams. One of we've discussed this, right?
Great
One of the
nickname, but
biggest.
not a great player. So I don't. Yeah.
Well, didn't he get injured? Like I think weren't you telling me this? Wasn't he
No,
the
that
number
was
two?
Jason Williams. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
There's
other
two Jason Williams. So white Jason Williams' nickname was White Chocolate. Black Jason Williams was the player who got hurt. There was two of them.
ah, too many Jason Williams. Okay, the
Yeah.
next one's really easy. David Robinson, aka the Admiral.
Oh yeah.
This one I didn't know. Like, yeah, you can tell my age because like 90s on, I'll recognize nicknames. But Nat Clifton was nicknamed. He was the first black player under contract in the NBA, and he was nicknamed Sweetwater.
Oh yeah, Sweetwater Clifton. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. I mean, I didn't know his
you've
name
heard of
was
it.
Nat. I just knew Sweetwater Clifton. So
It
I
is
guess
funny when you look
yeah,
at like super old nicknames because he likes like he's not even like Nat Diet Coke Clifton.
yeah.
Apparently he just likes sugary beverages. They're like how'd you get that nickname? He's like, well, my friends noticed that I used to drink sweet drinks and they
That's
called
funny.
me Sweetwater. I hate that I'm going to have to do this, but Isaiah Zeke Thomas. Yep. It's a known nickname. So,
Yeah,
well, we got to have some D's. Okay. Penny
sure.
Hardaway, of course. I thought that was a nickname from his grandma, but yeah. All right. Back. Oh, she called him a pretty baby, but it sounded like Penny.
Oh,
And I
that's
mean, I
funny.
just like it. I don't know for whatever this sounds like a stretch for me, but like giving out dimes, pennies. I don't know. There seems something there. All right, Lynn Sanity, of course, easy.
Remember the Linsanity, a classic Wages and Wins article, or maybe
Did
Boxscore Geeks.
yeah? Did this come first? Vin Sanity for Vince Carter.
Yes.
It's funny because I know Lynn Sanity first over Vin Sanity. This one, the next one, I'm going to give because of course, but I don't like the nickname Dennis Rodman, aka the Worm.
The Worm. I forget why he was the Worm. I'm sure it's something not good.
Apparently, it's. I'm going to have to send this along to Jeff May. He got that nickname because he wiggled while he was playing pinball.
Oh, that's funny.
Interesting. So Tom Sanders got the nickname Satch as an homage to Satchel Paige.
Hmm. I mean, that's again one of the best sports nicknames of all time and one of the best players, Satchel Paige.
But that's not Tom Sanders though. That's Satchel
Yeah,
Paige.
yeah. It's not, I mean,
I'm passing
it's, yeah,
unless you.
having, taking someone else's nickname is kind of weird. Or even if someone gives it to you.
This one's funny because it would probably never be attributed correctly now. But James Worthy was apparently Big Game James.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that.
And I mean he had some. I'll give you that.
That's a good one.
All right.
I mean, I always thought that Big Shot Rob was kind of a variation of Big Game James, but maybe
Ooh,
not.
nice.
That's
Okay.
just my guess.
Skip to my Lou for
Ray for
Rafir
Alston.
Alston. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you
that
think?
absolutely. I mean, he's like if you remember the and one mixtape videos were on ESPN and on cable TV all the time. Like Ray for Alston was basically the reason why those and one mixtapes went big, and he was like the one guy from those days that actually made it in the NBA. So to me, Ray for Alston is a very historical player.
This one is interesting. This next one, I'm putting it on the list, and it's one of the weird ones where I'm giving away some of my homework or what I'll say next show. But Sean Kemp earned the nickname Rain Man, both as a play off the movie Rain Man, rain spelled like king,
Right.
domination, and because he's from Seattle. So it's Rain Man because it rains, but then rain because he's dominates with regal. I don't know why. Like I agree, and it should work better than it does, but I'm adding
No,
it to the
I'm a
list for
hater of
validation.
that nickname, but it's worth debating. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we're kind of giving away it's fun. It's a funny one where I'm like, I should like this nickname, but I don't. So
It's
okay,
just it's
Bob.
too try hard. That's I don't know.
That's probably it. Is it's like yeah, you don't. It's like
It's too
and Sean
cute.
Kemp's so good. It's just like yeah, just like
Yeah, Sean Kemp needs something better than that, less convoluted.
okay. Apparently, Bob Cousy was nicknamed Houdini of the Hardwood, which I'm
That's
going to
right.
allow because
Yeah.
I'm from Appleton, Wisconsin, and we promote that we love. Uh, we have a bunch of Houdini stuff here because it was one
Oh,
of
is
his
he from the
childhood home.
area? Oh, is his
His
childhood home?
dad was I think a rabbi out here at some point,
Interesting.
right? And then so it's kind of like it's funny because we're like we have his childhood home here. It's like
It's
one of his
funny that his
childhood
dad
home.
was a rabbi and he went on to do that escape
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, and then yeah. All right, I was gonna say this one obviously Phil Jackson, aka the Zen Master. Yeah. Greek Freak for Giannis. I'm gonna add it. I'm not as big of a fan of that nickname, but he's good. And it's a nickname. All right. Do you know Stacey Ogman's nickname?
Plastic Man.
What do you think?
Oh, I love it. Love
All
Stacey
right.
Ogman.
Well, we were talking this. It's like, do you love the name, or do you? I mean, I guess like Mister Fantastic is such a like if you're gonna go for a comic book reference, right? But anyway, Stacy, Mister Fantastic, Augment as opposed to Plastic Man. Okay, yeah, this I don't know how this is aged. Though there's an entire team still named after him, but Robert Ory, aka the Chief. Yep,
Well, I thought he
I'll
was
give
Big
it to you.
Shot Rob.
Or Robert Parrish. Sorry, you're right.
Oh,
Rob Ory
Robert
is already in there.
Parrish.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I assume he's not affiliated with a tribe, but maybe he is. I don't know.
Yeah, Akeem the Dream, of course. Duh. I'm surprised it's this low on the list. I hate this nickname for this guy, but it's on the list, and I'm guessing we're going to add it. But the Hick from French Lick.
I've always kind of liked that one, even though it's lame. It just like it rhymes. It's a little too long, but it's always worked for me.
All right, hate the
And
player,
it's very
love the
well
name.
descriptive, right? Because he is kind of a hick. Anyway.
Yeah, like I don't know. Wilt the Stilt, I think is like that's 3 syllables. I think that's the most you get on rhyming. I think once you go past 3. The Mailman for Carl Malone, of course. This one I didn't know. Do you know Joel Brisbilla's nickname?
No, I didn't know he had one.
The Vanilla Gorilla. Mm,
Oh, it's so lame, but it's making me laugh. I mean,
all right. Well,
he's not an important enough player to make the list, probably. But
yeah.
like I said, I'd say put everything on there for it up to me.
I'm leaving it off because we got over 100. We're gonna have like over 50. We'll see how long the show goes because this is us just trimming the list. This isn't even discussing. All right, so Joe Bryant, aka Joe Jellybean Bryant, Kobe Bryant's dad.
Yeah, he's Kobe's dad, so he has to be on there.
It's not a bad nickname, but it is just hilarious. Where same as like Nat Sweetwater. It's just like he likes he liked jelly beans. You're like that's what he did to get a nickname. It's like, yeah.
Sure.
All right, Sean Marion, aka the Matrix, of course, not even a question.
It
Too
really
underrated as a
tells
play,
you that he played in the early 2000s, right? Right after the movies came out.
but I mean, he looked like it. Shaq.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate this. I don't know if there's a better nickname, but Shaquille O'Neal, aka Diesel.
Shaq Diesel, I think, is good. It's just short, efficient. I like it.
Hmm. All right, I is he known as this? Um, I'm inclined to move on from this, but Rudy Gobert, aka the French Rejection.
Never heard that one. I feel like there's a different nickname I've heard for him. I mean, if
Yeah.
I haven't heard the nickname, then yeah, I don't care about it.
Never Nervous Purvis for Purvis Ellison.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that one. Of
It's
course,
not a half
everyone
bad.
called him Nervous Purvis. They left off the never.
Yeah, the never. That makes it even better.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty cool. Marvin Webster nicknamed the Human Eraser.
Yeah, that's a good one.
8 blocks. Okay, if you earn it too. So I'll put it that way. So it's kind of like if you get a nickname like that, and I'm like, well, you better earn it. It's like, okay, average 8 shots, 8 blocks a game. All
Not
right, this
bad.
next one, no duh. David Skywalker Thompson.
Oh yeah.
Yep,
David Thompson, absolutely.
great. Okay, we already discussed this. I think I already put it on, but King James makes the list. Pistol Pete Maravich, of course. I mean,
Yep.
like, okay, like here's the thing. Um, if you watch the hit movie, I Love You Man, with how did I just drop both their names? Paul Rudd and Jason Segel. Like he like Nick's like his name is Pete and he just calls him Pistol Pete. And it's like you're able to get away with that, right? Like Pistol Pete is just such a known nickname that if you know someone named Pete, you can just call him Pistol Pete.
Yep.
Um Interesting. Were you aware of this nickname for Tim Duncan? Groundhog Day?
No. No.
Really? That's the best we got?
I thought he had a different nickname. What
I
about
heard the
Shaq called
big
him Big Fundamental, right?
I like the big fundamental over Groundhog Day. What do
Why
you
is he
think?
Groundhog Day? He just plays the same over and over again.
Basically, Charles Barkley said that he was just so consistent.
Interesting.
I'm going big fundamental. I don't care. I mean, and I don't think either, not to give it away,
I
I
mean,
don't
his
think
nickname
either.
is really just Timmy, right? That's Timmy Duncan. Like that's really what it is.
Okay. Gary Payton, aka the glove, of course. I mean, by the way, we're getting to the end. We're making good speed. We only got 20 names left. So we're going to be a little under an hour and a half for the show, which is perfect.
Oh, we're an hour and
And
a half right now. Sorry, Dre.
oh, did we start early? Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if yeah. All right. Dang it. It's 11. Oh, man, I thought we started at 10 or something. Whatever.
We
All
can
right.
still
Anyway,
do it though.
World Be Free, aka Leonard
Oh
Bernard
yeah,
Free.
yeah.
I mean, you gotta like
That's one of the classics.
be free. I don't know if I'll rank it S, but
So are
okay.
these in
So
order? Or are we getting up to what this author thinks are the best ones now?
this is what the author
Okay.
thinks is the best. Now, so here's the argument. You said Sir Charles. The author says round mound of rebound.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, so he had a ton of nicknames, and those two were used all the time. So I can't really badmouth either of them. But what I was saying is that yeah, Sir Charles, that was used in ad campaigns. They like dressed him up in fancy royalty clothes and made him all posh. So Sir Charles was big.
I will make an exemption for Charles Barkley. Both of those names get to make the list.
Why not?
Okay, Mr. Clutch for Jerry West. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
a cool
classic.
nickname and deserved.
Although again, isn't he the logo? Isn't that his primary nickname? Oh, it wasn't at the time though, right? Because they hadn't made the logo yet. But ever since he retired and they made him the logo, I think he's just
Yeah.
been the logo.
Okay, actually, I'm going to give you both because I'm going to say so. Like, here's the thing. We looked up. I think was it Lenny Wilkins, who was a player coach, like one of the top. He was on the top 50 list,
As a
and
player.
then as a player, and then he also made the Hall of Fame as a coach, and he coached Atlanta. So I think it's Lenny Wilkins, and he really should be his jersey should be retired by Atlanta, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
basically, the twofer, right? He goes in as a player and a coach. I'm willing to give the logo to Jerry West, the like
Didn't
GM
Lenny
front
Wilkins
off.
also coach the Olympics quite a bit, the national
He
team?
might. I mean, he
I mean,
went
he
in as
did so much.
basically he rightfully got in as a coach into the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying Atlanta should retire his number as well.
Yeah, oh, I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And okay. And by the way, Joe barely cares. Ah, come on. Sorry, Brian. I mean,
I
hopefully
I thought he got the raw deal. Like he was better than the nickname, but it's a good nickname. But it's
Vinny
mean, so I don't like
Johnson,
it.
a Vinny Johnson, aka the microwave. That's
Yeah,
just a cool nickname.
it's a good one. It's a good one.
Okay, Allen Iverson, aka the answer, of course.
Yep.
Of course, nowadays, like we'd be leaning
Also
into the
AI. He also had AI.
Yep. I was gonna say we'd be definitely be leaning into that modern day. Dominique Wilkins, aka the human highlight reel. I mean, yep,
Yeah, that one's
of
really
course.
good.
Yeah, I would be shocked if we don't just do all of these now, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
think
these are
we're
all. I think we're just doing them all right. We're gonna do Air
at this
Jordan and
point.
Magic Johnson. That's for sure.
Okay, actually, I'll just instead of even typing them because that's slowing me down a bit. Moses Malone, aka the chairman of the boards, love it.
Yep.
Okay, the Big Dipper. Now, interesting. You go with for Wilt Chamberlain. I'd put him up there with Charles, where we're allowed to do an
Yeah.
exemption.
I'd say Wilt
The
is still and
Big
Big Dipper
Dipper.
are equal. Those are both used about the same.
So here's the basic thing. If you're going to get this exemption, and so there might be like multiple, like if Michael Jordan, they're like, I don't know. I think Air Jordan is going to be obvious, but like you have to be of Charles Barkley or Wilt Chamberlain's caliber for us to give you the exemption. Oh, interesting. So I didn't realize this. So Walt Frazier went by Clyde from the
Yeah.
nickname.
Walt Clyde Frazier.
This is just confusing.
I
I'll
didn't
give
realize
it to
Clyde was a nickname. I thought that was like his middle name or something, but maybe not.
this. This made number 9. You tell me. So Bill Milkvey was nicknamed the Owl without a vowel.
Never heard of him.
No. I will give you Black Mamba for Kobe. We'll have talks about it.
Yep.
Kevin Durant, aka the Slim Reaper. That's actually pretty good.
Is that his main nickname though? I thought he had a different
I'll
one.
give that to you. That's what I'd heard.
I've heard it though, so I'm okay with it, and it's good.
Let's see. He only earns one. Durantula, KD, Slim Reaper.
I like Durantula.
Durantula's pretty good.
I think KD is his nickname, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's I mean that's just initials, and we. Okay, Dr. J. This was one of my S tiers out of the gate where we started this discussion, right? Because he was called the Doctor. Air Jordan, of course.
Air Jordan's not number one. I'm surprised. Or Dr. J. Who's
Really?
above? Who's
Dr.
left?
Duncanstein for Daryl Griffith, former Defensive Player of the Year.
Dr. Duncanstein is a really good nickname. I've always liked that one.
I don't know if I'd give it to him, but I like the nickname.
It's just what it is, though.
It's a good nickname. Like, okay, this is a good one. George Gervin, aka the Iceman, of course.
Oh, you know who we haven't done yet is Daryl Dawkins. That's got to be on there, right?
Oh, if it's not, we've got two left. So Magic. Oh no.
Daryl Dawkins, we have to make an audible and put on
Of
there.
course, I would agree. And I mean, that's. Oh, okay. By the way, so number two is Magic Johnson.
Okay.
Okay. Number one is Chocolate Thunder for Daryl Dawkins.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Okay. The world is right. The world is right.
All right, so here's the thing. I'm not even going to be worried because, as you pointed out, we've easily gone over an hour and a half. This has got to be fun content. The good thing is this is nice and splittable. Something we've talked in the past about, which is making the show split upable. So and this is clearly us in the off season. Dre being bored and Brian engaging. I appreciate you putting up with me for this, Brian.
Yeah, that was
I
fun.
will put this. I will put this together. I will get pictures and it's yeah. I've said that this has got to be automatable, so we'll be able to do this and we'll see how fast it goes. I mean, the good news is for some of these, we'll just be D or C or whatever, and we can have arguments. And I might even promote this a little to see if people want to follow along, right? Um, yeah, Chocolate Thunder. That's going to be hard not to be an
It was
S
so
tier,
perfect.
actually.
Like he just had so much swag. Like everything was. He's breaking backboards. Right. It was just great.
Okay, well, we've got a list of almost 100 names. If there are any you think we've left out or are missing, let us know. Same thing, Brian. If you think of any that we don't have, yeah, it's interesting.
We may need some newer players, like maybe rookies that are around now have good nicknames. I'm not sure, but maybe they haven't earned it yet. Maybe you have to, be around a long time, like Dr. Duncanstein.
Interesting. What Dikembe Mutombo came out Mount Mutombo? I don't know. It's a bummer. Like, that's not a great nickname, even though he's awesome.
I
Yeah.
remember that one, but it didn't get used very
Oh,
much.
actually, Brian, I can't believe this. I mean, it makes sense why this one wasn't on it. I don't think it's going to be super high, but Nikola Jokic Joker. Yeah, gotta add that.
Yeah, the Joker is a good one. I think because he won the MVP, he's got to be on the list, and
Golden
it's a
State
good
Warriors.
nickname.
Baby-faced assassin isn't half bad for Steph Curry.
Yeah, I think that's his most popular nickname, but he's got a
It's not
few.
great.
He's
Yeah.
got a few.
But if there are others we should add, I've
He's
got
not
the
that
list.
baby faced anymore either. He's starting to get
Yeah.
weathered.
All right, but that is a nice long list of names. A little over an hour and a half of us talking it. Anything else you want to end on, Brian? Otherwise, I'll put us into plugs and we can meet back in 2 weeks with a list of these to do.
I mean that's it. It was fun. Yeah, we were chatting about this. It sucks that the summer league's over. We've got like this long push until training camp now, but we've got the World Cup going. WNBA is going. It's still kind of early on, but we'll eventually have WNBA playoffs. And Dre, here's what I'm really excited for. After 20 years, slam ball is back. I'm a I love all the weird sports and I love slam ball, so I'm going to be watching some slam ball this summer.
Actually, okay, I completely spaced this, and I just don't
By the
want to mess
way,
stuff on.
Dre, amazing nicknames in the old school slam ball. We had like Sean Inches Jackson. We had like this guy named Shakes. We had all these different good nicknames. So anyway, slam ball is great.
Slam ball, and that's on the trampolines, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That's ridiculous. I'd worry so much about my knees if I was doing something like that. I
Yeah,
mean, you just
yeah, I'm surprised they haven't had really bad injuries, but apparently it's similar injury rate to basketball, which is lower than football.
well,
I don't know
basketball,
if
I
I
think, right?
believe
It's
that, but that's what they claim.
yeah. So I would see slam ball as you jump higher, but you have something softer to come down on, whereas basketball, you have hard floor to come down on. And actually, yeah, that two. I'll give two easy shout outs. So actually, Sabrina, it's a bummer because like Sabrina the Teenage Witch is so synonymous. That's a horrible nickname. But Sabrina Ionescu, sorry, Sabrina, for getting 37 made
Oh
threes in the
yeah,
3 point
that
contest,
was
which is
beautiful.
absolutely ridiculous. And I'm forgetting it was former. I'm apologizing, but I believe it was a former Warrior who was like 43, doing like dunks recently. Came
Yes,
up so.
Jason Richardson. He's 42 years old. He won the slam dunk contest at least once. He's one of the best dunkers in the history of the NBA. He threw down a reverse dunk in Big Three, Ice Cubes League, and he almost hit his head on the rim. And he's 42, so that was pretty amazing. He's still got the ups.
And so, Brian, he is not just the slam dunk contest winner. He is a back-to-back
Yeah.
dunk contest winner in 2002,
No, until
2003.
that Levine versus Gordon competition, which I consider to be the best of all time, I thought Jason Richardson was the best. So to me, he's
Aaron
like third through fifth dunk contest guy.
We got to get like Mr. Snubbed as Aaron Gordon's nickname between the slam dunk contest, him not getting an all-star game. Aaron Mr. Snubbed Gordon. Let's get it going. It'll be on a list in 20 years, right, Brian?
Yeah, so I think Jason Richardson was the first to do the J.R. Ryder East Bay Funk in a slam dunk competition where you go between the legs. Like, that's not an easy dunk to do. And Jay Rich threw it down, in 2007 or whatever.
Now I'm wasting my time looking this up, which is good. That's good stuff to do after the fact. I'll say this. So find stats at boxscoregeeks.com. The show you can find everywhere. The Boxscore Geeks show, iTunes, Stitcher, any place podcasts are found. Brian and myself are both on X, Boxscore Brian. Nerd Numbers for myself. We're both on Blue Sky. B Foster for Brian. Nerd Numbers for myself. And then yeah, we go live twitch.tv/nerd numbers. We're hopefully going to be doing Tuesday. Let's see, what's the we're switching a month, Brian. So in 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
And I cannot do in my head. So Tuesday the 8th, we're hopefully going to be doing a tier thing. And so if you want to watch that along, that'll be at about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, that's been our show. We'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.